Regardless of which side you are rooting for, clear as day the losing side is the fans. So ever since the recent revelations from yesterday, things have been going out of control in relation to both Sony, Disney and the Spider-Man franchise as we know it. And since this is currently a developing story, we've been hearing a lot more information since the whole breakup between Sony and Disney has been made public knowledge. Now to catch you all on speed, during the initial deal, Disney was only getting about 5% of the stakes coming from all of the Spider-Man movies within the MCU that were being worked on by Sony. And during the renegotiation stages, Disney were getting a little ahead of themselves by demanding a 50% stakes instead of the initial 5%, in which Sony turned it down, and because neither party could really find any common ground, the deal is done and Sony will be carrying on with Spider-Man without Marvel Studios and Disney. Since then, Sony themselves have released an official statement in terms of the Spider-Man deal and how the whole fallout between Disney and Marvel Studios went down, with a series of tweets that does show Sony's side of the story. Much of today's news about Spider-Man has mischaracterized recent discussions about Kevin Feige's involvement in the franchise. We are disappointed but respect Disney's decision to not have him continue as the lead producer of our next live-action Spider-Man film. We hope this might change in the future, but understand that the many new responsibilities that Disney have given him, including all of their newly added Marvel properties, do not allow time for him to work on IP they do not own. Kevin is terrific and we are grateful for his help and guidance and appreciate the path he has helped put us on, which we will continue. Now people seem to be debating on whether this is actually a genuine statement or if they're just trying to cover their asses from the backlash. Because based on that statement, it did seem like Sony genuinely wanted to continue working with Marvel Studios and Disney. But at the same time, they do have their own contingency plan with the Venomverse. Not to mention that Sony is known for being quite possibly the dumbest out of all of the companies, but make of all of that what you will. Though a side note, I do sense a bit of bullshit from that statement in relation to Kevin Feige, because make no mistake, although Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios are technically part of Disney, they are still their own entity. Plus, as far as I'm aware, they would have been perfectly okay with the exact same deal if it was to be extended, because they do want to play with Spider-Man and all of their Marvel characters. So in my eyes, Marvel Studios isn't the enemy here, so you can't really blame any of this on them. And as for Disney and their 50% split, people are beginning to label them as being greedy because they are trying to get on the bandwagon and try to gain as much money as possible due to the fact that they have been losing money due to the poor performances of the likes of Fox-owned properties like Dark Phoenix and whatnot. And at first glance, I will admit that it doesn't seem particularly good on Disney's end and it does seem rather shady on their part. However, what most people seem to brush off and kind of skip over is the fact that as part of the new deal that they were working on, the 50-50 deal was so that it could be possible for the Sony Venomverse to coincide with Disney's Marvel Cinematic Universe. And because everything from that deal would have made sure that everything within the Spider-Man mythos would be in one universe alone, naturally it would seem that all better off with the 50-50 split. But even though I'm not the biggest expert in terms of the business aspects of things, that would be a little problematic for both companies, and so it would have made more sense if they were to raise the stakes to like maybe 25%. So that way Sony could gain majority of the profit from all of their Spider-Man movies and vice versa, while the other company in question gains 25% of the stakes. But the real question is, who is the true villain between Disney and Sony? And if you ask me, at this point in time, I think they're about as bad as each other, because Disney are asking a little too much for their own good, while Sony are just being a little hot-headed by pulling Spider-Man out of the equation altogether. And unless they eventually figure something out soon, I highly doubt that we are actually going to have Spider-Man in the MCU within the near future. And it especially sucks because if they were to find somewhat of a common ground with this new deal, it would have been finally possible for them to include Tom Hardy's Venom and have him facing off against Tom Holland's Spider-Man, which is something I'm pretty sure everyone wanted to see. And either way you look at it, with the absence of Spider-Man in the MCU, it just feels like a big loss for all of the fans, and that's really the most unfortunate part in this situation. So are you still disappointed in that Spider-Man will be removed from the MCU in the near future, and who do you think is truly to blame in this? Disney or Sony? Comment below and share some thoughts. And as always, thank you guys for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. Take care and have a good one.